In Dragon Ball DAIMA Episode 12, Vegeta becomes a Super Saiyan 3, and this changes everything. Well, not literally everything, but changes a lot about Super Saiyan 3 as we came to know it. The first thing we can say that's very obvious is Vegeta Super Saiyan 3 looks a bit different than Goku and Gotenks' version. His hair is much more spiky and defined. Vegeta uses this form in his fight with the 𝗕𝗥𝗔𝗡𝗧. After 𝗕𝗫 powers him up, he's backed into a corner and forced to use the full extent of his power, which had been previously unknown to us fans. For years, people have debated if Vegeta could turn into a Super Saiyan 3, and it's finally been settled, so that's a huge W for Vegeta fans. But it's a big L in my opinion in general. When we first learned about Super Saiyan 3 and Goku's fight with Buu, it blew people's minds. The thought that there was a form further beyond Ascended Super Saiyan shook things up in the Dragon Ball universe. From there on out, it was looked at as the final endgame form, from video games to the OG DBZ movies. When Goku turned into a Super Saiyan 3, you know he meant business. The only question that ever arises from this form is how to actually obtain it. We only see it 3 times in the series, twice in the original and once non-canonly, excluding video games and Dragon Ball Heroes. The first was obviously Goku at some point in Otherworld, but we weren't actually told how Goku learned it there. Though there's a lot of implications that him not having a body allowed him to push past his physical limitations. There's a few times during the fight against Kid Buu that Goku mentions how his alive body isn't quite accustomed to Super Saiyan 3 as of yet. When he was dead while using it against Fat Buu, he seemingly had no issues besides the time constraint it put on him being on Earth. With Gotenks, the same could be said as far as not having a clear answer. What we can say though is Trunks and Goten did watch Goku become a Super Saiyan 3 more than once. Individually, they haven't become a Super Saiyan 2 yet, but somehow together they can be a Super Saiyan 3. With the lack of clear explanation at the time, what it seemed like to me and a handful of fans is that Super Saiyan 3 was a mythical transformation. What both of these occurrences have in common is the form being achieved while having their physical body modified in some way. In Goku's case, it was him not even having one. Training without having to worry about getting tired or needing to eat surely accelerated his capabilities to astronomical heights, achieving Super Saiyan 3. With Gotenks, it was discovered by a fusion, a being that quite literally modifies your physical body into a new super warrior. This alongside being in an alternate dimension in the Room of Spirit and Time, and you have what I thought for the longest time was the formula for achieving this transformation. Even the non-canon sequel to Dragon Ball GT, kept this same principle, coincidentally or not. Many people don't know this, but Baby Vegeta was actually a Super Saiyan 3 while in his Super Baby 2 state. When Baby first took Vegeta's body, he was a Super Saiyan, which is why later when he's tricking Trunks into thinking he was the real Vegeta, you can see his hair turn from brown to silver. That silver hair is an indication of him being in Super Saiyan. Later, Baby transforms twice after this, which implies that the last form he takes before becoming a Great Ape is indeed Super Saiyan 3. I mean, think about it. His hair grows out longer and his eyebrows conveniently disappear. So I don't think this was done by mistake. It's also in this case that Super Saiyan 3 is achieved in some way we mentioned prior. Vegeta having his physical body altered by being corrupted by Baby so much that his DNA altered it, making his Super Saiyan hair silver instead of gold. And to attain the Super Baby 2 state, he absorbed the energy of all the people he harvested in the city. And through that, he was able to break past that Super Saiyan 2 wall and become Super Baby 2, or Super Saiyan 3. It was after this that in my mind, Super Saiyan 3 was stamped as the form that couldn't simply be achieved through training alone, and specific requirements were needed. The form itself always seemed like a genetic mutation, rather than your average transformation. Vegeta's lack of using this form of Dragon Ball Super also seemingly confirmed this, and it wasn't until Dragon Ball DAIMA that this theory was completely thrown out of the window. As stated by Bulma and denied by Vegeta, he achieved Super Saiyan 3 by training, which doesn't contradict how Goku and Gotenks got it necessarily, but it makes it way less cool now. Both Goku and Gotenks did train to get this form, but because it was never actually said how they achieved it verbatim, there was a specialness to it. Not to mention the fact that Vegeta would have achieved this form rather quickly in DAIMA, since it takes place 1 year after the Buu saga at most. So somehow, 1 year after his fight with Kid Buu, doing the same gravity room training we know him to do, was able to achieve Super Saiyan 3. Just seems kinda lazy. This isn't new for Vegeta though. The first time we see him able to catch up to Goku in Dragon Ball Super, it was just after training a few months with Whis. This is a Goku, mind you, that was able to absorb the power of the Super Saiyan God into his base form. The same Super Saiyan God at the time would have been stronger than Vegeta, since Goku also states that the fusion wouldn't have been strong enough to fight against Beerus. That same Beerus that fought against Super Saiyan 3 Goku made him look like he was fighting in slow motion. And somehow Vegeta surpassed this in a very short amount of time, 6 months to be exact. Later on, we also learned that Vegeta achieved Super Saiyan God without the need of a ritual, as stated by Goku during their fight with Golden Frieza. Because of this, I can't say it's far-fetched Vegeta would achieve something so significant in a short amount of time. However, in both these instances, it made sense to me at least why he was able to do this. As we know, Vegeta is a prodigy. This time around, however, we aren't given any new information or training methods that made him attain the form. As we see in the Battle of Gods arc during Dragon Ball Super, he's still training in the Gravity Room. To think that all he had to do was something similar to this, but maybe try harder and achieve Super Saiyan 3 isn't consistent with Vegeta's jumps in power. When it was said that Vegeta surpassed Goku after training with Whis, it made sense. This was the first time Vegeta trained under someone, and it was an angel at that. When Vegeta first obtained Super Saiyan, it was stated by Piccolo and seemingly Goku himself that Vegeta had surpassed him. Even though they both trained for 3 years in earnest of beating the androids, Vegeta still somehow came on top. But this isn't surprising, because he trained much harder than Goku did. We see this in the filler episodes how hard Vegeta pushed himself. Not only did he have to close the gap between how much stronger Goku was than him on Namek, but also Goku's 𝗕𝗪𝗓 training. It was stated in Dragon Ball Super that spirit control allows users to achieve a multitude of potential abilities through their ki. So when Goku trained on 𝗕𝗪𝗓 in the Android arc, he got a small potential boost on top of the Zenkai he got after his battle with Frieza. Vegeta was able to surpass all this on top of Goku training for 3 years alongside him. Again though, this makes sense, given how hard he was training for those 3 years. Later on, when Vegeta trains with the 𝗕𝗪𝗓s, not only does he learn instant transmission quicker than Goku, but he also learns something Goku wasn't able to when he trained with them: spirit fission. Despite Goku learning how to use Ultra Instinct Omen at will, Vegeta was stated to have surpassed him in his Evolution Blue form when he fought Moro. Again though, this does make sense since Vegeta learned spirit control. Another time, Vegeta went above and beyond in addition to his prodigy boost and was able to gain an equal level to Goku if not higher. But with Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and DAIMA, it's almost treated like, yeah, of course Vegeta has it. It's 1 year after the Buu Saga, and he was training really hard. But I don't know, there's just something about it. The lack of explanation or detail into the training just makes it seem like you can get this form through just gravity training or just regular training for a year. Doesn't even seem like it was intense, I don't know. Looking past these couple of issues though, I think we run into an even bigger one that really cements me not being the biggest fan of the Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta rollout, which is why Vegeta never used Super Saiyan 3 after this series. We know during Dragon Ball Z he doesn't have it, but in Dragon Ball Super he should. But for whatever reason, he chooses not to use it at any point for any reason. Most people who thought Vegeta could turn into a Super Saiyan 3 already made the argument that he wouldn't use it because it's a useless transformation. The supporting evidence of this firstly begins in the Cell Saga. It was made very clear that Super Saiyan Grade 3 was useless. And even though Vegeta wasn't able to master Super Saiyan in the year he spent in the time chamber, he knew to stay away from this form. Instead, he settled for Grade 2, which seemed to slow you down a bit, but the power increase was worth it. The next piece of evidence happens in Dragon Ball Super, when Trunks asked Vegeta to use the same style as Goku did and become a Super Saiyan 3. Vegeta laughs at the idea and shows him a better form to aim to instead. The first was that he thought Super Saiyan 3 was useless, and there's no need to fight him in that form when there's better ones, or he couldn't use the form. But the former is true regardless, so there's no need for me to have a form. Evidently, it was the first interpretation, but that's where the issues I have with this lie. If it's the case that Vegeta is a transformation genius and he knew not to use the form even though he had it, begs the question to me as to why he used it against the Tamagami 2 at all. Since Vegeta should already know how useless the form was back in Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta had a front row seat for Goku vs Kid Buu, and it's very clear that Super Saiyan 3 has insane stamina drawbacks, and it nearly causes them to fight when Goku is charging it up while Vegeta was getting slaughtered. It seemed like in the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, but he didn't use it against Beerus, which begs the question why he didn't use the form against Beerus in Dragon Ball Super. Even if Vegeta thinks the form is useless, he knows it's stronger than Super Saiyan 2 and didn't opt to use it in a battle where he should be using 100% of his power. It doesn't even come out during his Rage Boost later, which is weird to me since Rage Boost usually makes people use the full extent of their transformations. You could argue he only used it against Tamagami 2 because he could test the gap between them and use it to finish off the fight quickly, which I'm not completely mad at. Still though, I think he should have used it against Beerus. Having said that though, I'm more curious why Goku opted to use it after DAIMA rather than why Vegeta didn't. Goku should know better than anyone how much a useless form it is. Yet he used it in 3 separate occasions in Dragon Ball Super: Beerus, Trunks, and Kale and Caulifla. Regardless of how useless it is, the form is superior to Super Saiyan 2. By such an extent, it makes sense to use it in replacement. Super Saiyan Blue was another form that was stated by Goku to be very straining on the body as well, but that didn't stop Goku and Vegeta from spamming it during the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament and the fights with Goku Black, even though Super Saiyan God is just right there to use. And it's in a similar spot that Super Saiyan 2 is in. It's a form that's much weaker but more manageable. Even before it was known Super Saiyan Blue could be mastered, they opted to use that over God, despite the drawbacks. And that's kind of my problem with Super Saiyan 3 being deemed useless in Vegeta's eyes and never using it, but opting for Super Saiyan 2. Goku was the first one to make note of how increasing your muscle mass in an attempt to make yourself stronger was inefficient, so him deciding to keep using a form that's useless, or at least useless enough for Vegeta to drop it while Goku kept it, creates a weird angle to me. Either Goku's wrong or Vegeta's wrong. Either way though, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta personally leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but only because of the rollout. I think Vegeta having the form is a huge W for the fans.